GNH is gross national happiness, and okay, how it began, the specific term itself came up in the early 1970s, when at that time it was the fourth king of Bhutan. He remarked that gross national happiness is more important than gross national product, which is essentially a play on the GNP term, and really meaning that there are more things, there are broader things to consider than just growth in the narrow sense. So since then, since the early 1970s, when that term first came about, a higher vision for development, basically. In Bhutan, it's the guiding philosophy for development, and it's also reflected in the constitution. So how it came about really is in the early 1970s, our fourth king at the time, where he said gross national happiness is more important than gross national product, and really meaning that development should serve a higher purpose than just growth alone. So we should consider many other things which are important for the well-being in order for people to be able to live a good life. So basically that's how the specific terminology came about. Then it was in the late 1990s, early 2000 that what's been now for some time been called the 4 pillars of GNH came about, because our Prime Minister then at that time, Jigme Waitanle, it was at one of the UN conferences in Seoul, Korea. That's when he first articulated, brought it to the attention of the international community that GNH is supported by 4 pillars. And these 4 pillars, the way I understand it personally, is really what have been priority areas of development for Bhutan. Because when we look back at our plan documents, Bhutan follows the 5-year plan process in development. So these were really priority areas. So balanced and equitable socio-economic development as well, the environmental preservation, cultural promotion and resilience, and good governance. So that's how I see it as having come about. And after that, I think it caught the imagination of the world, and we started having these international conferences. The Center for Bhutan Studies really, first of all, put out a set of discussion papers in book form, really trying to explore what GNH is, and got a collection of views from Bhutanese as well as some experts from outside the country also at the time. And but then it really started with these international conferences on GNH that the center organized. We had more people coming in and really trying to understand what it is. Is it a philosophy? Is it is it something going against? Is it anti-globalization? All of these things. I mean, it just attracted so much attention. And then, of course, people wanted to know, oh, but how do you measure it? And all of these things came up. And in a way, then Bhutan, we ourselves also had to think, okay, really, how do we measure it? But can we measure it? You're talking about happiness. So anyway, there have been 5 international conferences to date. And over time, the government, it was in late 2005, basically mandated the Center for Bhutan Studies to develop a GNH index. So an index that would supposedly measure well-being, state of well-being in the country. So now we have a GNH index. It's not perfect, it's imperfect. I mean, it's still a work in progress. It's survey-based, and information is there on the website, but basically 2 national surveys have been carried out, and based on that, an index has been constructed. But it's not that we have replaced the measure, GDP with the GNH index, and it's not that we claim to be the happiest country. I think that's a very big misconception, common misconception. anybody, the moment you say Bhutan or you tell them you're from Bhutan, they immediately say, oh, the happiest country and all of that, and it's not true. We know that in terms of social indicators and even environmental track record, we're quite good, but there are countries who are doing much better. So, but the fact is that I think our leadership has been very strong in promoting this as the ultimate goal of development. So really promoting something that's more holistic and really takes into consideration the concept of justice and equity, and that we should really value our family, our relationships with friends, family, community, our cultures and diversity, and also the idea of interdependence. So often people trip up on the word happiness because it means so many things to so many people, and then we forget, and GNH gets really sort of not simplified, but yeah, some people almost mock it also and are instantly cynical, because obviously happiness could be a fleeting moment, or it's a lot of money, or you have a big house. It could be those things to people, but I think what's important to understand is how, when we say GNH, we're not just saying happiness. GNH is meant to be a development orientation for development, where we're looking into a really deeper meaning of happiness. So how we understand it, at least in Bhutan, is much deeper than this material growth and all of that. It's about having as I mentioned before, all of this, the sense of community and these good relations and things like that. So yes, basically, not to trip up on the word happiness and get thrown off balance by that. And in terms of how it's being taken forward, so after the conferences, then the GNH index is still being improved upon. And then, of course, the happiness resolution was passed in 2011 by the UN. It was introduced by Bhutan and supported by 68 member states, and passed by consensus, basically. And then, in follow-up to that, we had a big meeting at the United Nations headquarters on April 2nd, 2012, last year. And there also a lot of people gathered and really proposing, the aim of the meeting also was proposing well-being and happiness as sort of the goal for development. So now, as a result of that meeting, Bhutan is working on what's called the New Development Paradigm Initiative, which is what I'm, the Secretariat for the New Development Paradigm that's been set up to look into this, and that's where I'm working right now. And we are also basically coordinating the work of about 60 international experts from diverse backgrounds and how So really to, with well-being and happiness as the ultimate goal, really trying to flesh out, okay, how do we actually do that in practice? What are the systems? What are the mechanisms? So really it's something of a blueprint, very ambitious goal, of course, but at the same time, it has already served to inspire a lot of people from all over the world who come to Bhutan and talk to us about what they are doing in their local communities because of this idea, and little things that they're trying to do to make it work on the ground. So it's really in turn serves to inspire us. Then, of course, in the Bhutanese constitution itself, GNH is there. It's enshrined in the constitution, and we have what's called the GNH Commission, which was previously the Planning Commission, but it's been renamed as such because they're responsible for planning the entire 5-year plans, the development, and all of that, and aid coming into the country, grants. So really, I mean, that's the fifth king now. The fifth king took that initiative, and really it's a way to put GNH into practice and to reorient just the way we function. So of course, a disclaimer, it's not to say that everything is perfect. We have our own problems, very practical problems, but at least we are trying to work towards that. And as government, we want to try and engage wider population also, because I think up to now, because we've had it quite good, so people still tend to think of the government as having to provide everything, and but now we're a democracy, and we're slowly learning to sort of figure out, okay, what's our responsibility, how can we be more active, and it's a very interesting process. Sometimes it's confusing, sometimes it's painful, because we're used to a certain, at least I grew up in a certain, with the king who was who's always revered, the monarchy. So it's this shift in the system, but people are adjusting. So even with GNH and with democracy, for us, the Secretariat, we really are interested in seeing how can people be more active and not just complain about GNH being this utopian idea, but really think about it and see how civil society can take it on and contribute as much as the government is trying.